All right, so I have seen the latest movie in the line of PlayStation movies that Sony is making, Gran Turismo, based on a true story. It seems like that's the title that the studio is going with online, but the actual movie is called Gran Turismo. It's kind of weird, but whatever. So, a bit of background with my experience with the Gran Turismo franchise. I never really grew up playing with a PlayStation, so therefore I didn't play Gran Turismo. I knew what it was. Obviously, it's a racing game, very detailed. That's why it's famous. But I have no real nostalgia or love for the game. Just the movie was interesting. Wanted to go watch the movie. So how is this movie? It is a good movie. It's fine. But if you are a cinephile, or someone who watches a lot of movies and loves, diving into movies and getting into all the details like I do, you will find a lot of issues with this movie. And those come from the fact that this movie is about as cliche as you can get. Everything that this movie does, there are other sports movies, other racing movies that have done this as well. Ford v Ferrari comes to mind. Even Disney and Pixar's Cars comes to mind. Now, being cliche isn't in and of itself a bad thing. You can do some interesting stuff with cliches. And this movie does a couple new interesting things, but not enough to get it out of that kind of just cliche realm. However, it's still a very competently directed movie. The sound editing is fantastic, and stuff like that elevates this movie from to okay. One of those things that elevates it, like I mentioned earlier, is the sound editing and the sound mixing. These race cars sound beautiful in real life, and the people behind this movie realize that, and a lot of times they'll just let the cars, you just listen to the cars just go as they're racing, and it sounds awesome. So I really appreciated that in this movie. Also, David Harbour is a treasure and he should be protected at all costs. He's a phenomenal actor and he really does save the movie from being kind of boring. Because if it wasn't for him, unfortunately, the lead actor is kind of stale in this movie. Nothing against him personally, but I don't know if it's just was the direction of where they wanted to take the character, but he's not very charismatic and he's not a very fun lead to follow. He's just kind of a blank slate. But David Harbour really picks up the slack here with his character. He's very engaging. He's got a lot of screen presence. Orlando Bloom is fine as well. He's not as blank of a slate as our lead character, but he's Orlando Bloom's kind of there. He's not given as much screen time as David Harbour is. Also, Digimon Honsu, I hope I pronounced his first name correctly, but he's in this movie. Not enough, in my opinion. I think this movie would have benefited a lot if it focused more on the relationship between our main character and his actual father and his kind of surrogate father and our David Harbour character, and seeing the relationship between these three kind of evolve over time. The movie doesn't really focus on that as much as I think it should have, because you've got two really good actors here playing the two father characters. And so the movie definitely could have taken advantage of that. Another issue with this movie is that there is a romantic subplot that it feels like it has to develop for some reason, and this romantic subplot has nothing to do with the story. It has no effect on our main character and his struggle. You could have cut out that entire subplot and you wouldn't have missed any emotional nuance in this movie whatsoever. Which I think cutting this out of the movie would have made the movie better because it's 2 hours and 15 minutes long. If you cut this out of the movie, you would make it at least 2 hours. It seems it's just filler. It's just unnecessary, which is a shame because there's a lot of really cool stuff in this movie. Speaking of the cliche stuff that I mentioned earlier, we have bad guys in this movie, evil, not evil, but like bullies, like bully racers, which seemed a little playground and kiddish to me in a movie that is based off of real life. Hey, if these guys did exist, then hey, that's kind of weird that these guys were such big jerks to our main character. But it was just unnecessary and made the movie feel a lot more kiddish than it needed to be. And I don't know why we needed two of them, especially. So yeah, so unfortunately, a couple of stuff bringing it down from the good category, but it is resting very comfortably in that fine category. If none of the cliche stuff bothers you that much and you just want to have a good time at the movies with your family, especially if you're nostalgic for the Gran Turismo game, or if you're a racer fan in general, I feel like this is a good time at the movies for you. So yeah, go check it out and see what you think.